Okay, ever like been running late and you can't find your keys?
Oh, yeah.
And then it's like, where's my phone? Where's my wallet?
Every single time.
It's like, the chaos.
Yeah,
And I think that's why like we all secretly crave a little more organization in our lives, right?
absolutely.
So today we're going deep on 5 surprisingly specific organization hacks that can like honestly help you like conquer that chaos. And trust me, these aren't like those old, make your bed tips your grandma used to give.
Right.
We're going way beyond the basics today to uncover some really practical insights you can actually use.
Well, and I think what's so fascinating about organization is that, it's not just about finding like the perfect system, because
Yeah.
that doesn't exist, right?
Yeah.
But it's really about understanding the psychology behind why we struggle with it in the first place.
Mm.
And then once you know that, you can kind of use that to your advantage.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so our first tip, it's a classic. Create a to-do list.
Okay.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Tell me something I haven't heard before, right?
Right.
But trust me on this. There's a method to this madness.
Exactly. Yeah, because I mean, everyone jots down errands. Everyone has a to-do list in some way, shape, or form. But have you ever really thought about like how you make that list
Hmm,
and how that can actually affect your brain?
interesting.
Like, for example, research actually shows that physically writing down your tasks instead of just like, typing them out on your phone or your computer can actually boost your memory recall. Yeah. And it makes you way more likely to actually do them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's like you're making a mini commitment when you write it down on paper.
So are you saying ditch the digital notes completely and like embrace the pen and paper?
Not necessarily. Again, it's all about what works best for you.
Right.
Some people really thrive on the visual structure of like a bullet journal, for example.
Yeah.
Where you can get in there with all the colorful pens and highlighters and,
Yeah. The little check marks.
check it off.
I-
So satisfying, right?
Yes.
Or maybe you're more of a, I need the flexibility of an app type
Mhm.
of person, right? You want to categorize things. You want to set reminders. And that's fine too. I think the key here is to make a conscious choice about it. Don't just default to like whatever's easiest,
Yeah.
Put some thought into it.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. Okay, let's talk about a tip that I think often gets overlooked, and that's declutter your space.
Yes.
And full disclosure, like my workspace can go from like organized chaos to just full-on chaos really quickly. So I'm curious, is there a connection there between like a messy desk and feeling overwhelmed by your to-do list, for example?
Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
100%. And, it goes beyond just like appearances, right? Because oftentimes when we have physical clutter, that translates to mental clutter as well,
Hmm.
right? It's like all this stuff is just competing for your attention. It creates this sense of chaos in your mind.
Yeah.
It's like your environment is literally working against your organizational efforts.
Wow.
And, this is where the idea of visual noise comes in. Have you heard of this?
I've heard of it. Yeah. So it's basically just, like distractions for your eyes.
Right,
So if you can minimize that visual noise through decluttering, it
Yeah.
really does create like a much calmer, more focused environment.
That makes a lot of sense. But where do you even begin? Like, what if you feel like your entire house needs like a decluttering intervention?
Oh, the overwhelm is real.
It is.
It is. But honestly, just start small.
Okay.
Like pick a drawer,
Okay.
pick a shelf, maybe even just like your computer desktop if that's what's calling to you.
Yeah.
Just tackle that one thing. And once it's done, you'll feel so good.
Yeah.
And then you can just use that momentum to keep going.
Love it. Love it. Okay. Moving on to, I think, a love-hate relationship we all have, and that is with time management tools,
Oh, yes.
calendars, planners, apps,
Yeah.
many.
It's a lot, can be overwhelming. So help us out here. What are your thoughts on these tools?
So again, I think the key here is really intentionality.
Okay.
Right. Instead of getting caught up in, oh, this is the latest and greatest productivity trend, I have to try it. Spend some time actually thinking about, like, what are your biggest time wasters?
Yeah.
Are you constantly getting sucked into social media? Like, oh, let me just scroll for a minute and then an hour
An
later?
hour later. Exactly.
Or do you find that, meetings at work always seem to run over?
Always
Right.
the worst.
So once you kind of pinpoint what those pain points are for you, then you can choose a tool that specifically addresses that.
So not necessarily using every tool, just like the right tool for the job.
Exactly. The best tool is the one that you'll actually use consistently.
That's so true.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
It has to fit into your workflow. It shouldn't be adding another layer of complexity to your life.
Yeah, that defeats the purpose. Okay, speaking of workflow, let's talk about setting daily priorities.
Okay.
Is this I think is especially relevant when you have that to-do list that starts to feel more like, a to-do novel.
Right. It's never ending.
Yes,
I
the
agree.
never-ending to-do list.
Yes.
So, give us some strategies here. What can we actually do?
Okay, so one strategy that I actually really like is something called the eat the frog technique.
Okay, tell me more.
Okay, so it was coined by this author, Brian Tracy. And basically, the idea is that you tackle your most daunting task first thing in the morning.
Oh,
You just get it out of the way.
I like it.
Eat the frog.
Eat the frog. Yeah.
And what's so great about that is it sets a really positive tone for the rest of the day because you're like, okay, the worst is over, you know,
Right.
and it just frees up so much mental energy to focus on other things.
I love that. No more procrastinating on the big, scary tasks.
Exactly.
Just eat the frog.
Just do it.
Okay, our final tip. And this one is often overlooked, but it's incredibly important. Review and adjust.
Yes.
Why? Why is this step so crucial?
Because, organization isn't a one-time fix.
Right.
It's not like you get organized and then ta-da, you're done. It's an ongoing process. It really is. Because our lives are constantly evolving and so should our systems for managing them, right? So it's really important to just kind of regularly check in with yourself. Maybe that's weekly, monthly, whatever feels right for you.
Yeah.
And just ask yourself, what's working? What's not working? What can I tweak?
Yeah, it's about recognizing that, there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Exactly.
And what worked, maybe a few months ago might not be the best fit for you today.
Yeah, and that's okay.
Yes.
Give yourself permission to experiment
Yeah.
until you find what really, truly works for you.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so to kind of wrap up our deep dive into surprisingly specific organization hacks, I think the big takeaway here is, it's not about rigid rules or achieving this picture perfect Instagram worthy level of organization.
Right, it's not about perfection.
No, I think it's more about building a system that truly complements your life, right? That reduces your stress and ultimately that helps you achieve your goals. Now, I want to leave you with this. Think about an area of your life where you feel like a little more organization would make the biggest impact. What is one small step, and it can be small, that you can take today to get started? Maybe it's just finally clearing off that nightstand that's been bothering you. Or maybe it's trying out that eat the frog technique. Or, exploring a new time management app. Whatever it is, remember, every journey to a more organized life begins with a single intentional step.